Hi, my name is Jonathan Reynolds. Welcome to Mindful Life, Mindful Works, Thoughtful Work Thursdays. Again, this is a new offering from Mindful Life, Mindful Work, and we're just experimenting with the live streaming here on YouTube. And it really is an opportunity for us to have a conversation, for us to be in dialogue around what it means to actually work mindfully or thoughtfully. And so that's the goal here. Again, as we get going, of course, it'll take time to get a little bit of a watchership and folks that attend regularly and put questions into the comments. And until that time, I'm going to just sort of talk on a comment for a little bit and see if that's useful to anyone who's tuning in. So today, I'd like to address a little bit scheduling. I think one of the things that shows up in all of our work lives, whether we work at home or we work in a company or we work with a large team or a small team or we're on our own, is how do we schedule? How do we make it so we're not just getting pulled this way and that by whatever's showing up on our calendar or in our life and in our work? And so today I want to talk a little bit about what it actually means to, one of the things I do and work with clients is we recognize that if all of what is affecting our behavior is coming from the outside, we're actually just getting sort of batted about by circumstances. And something changes when we shift. There's a phrase I use in client work called locus of autonomy. And what that is where is the prime mover? Where is the decision-making process? What initiates how we live and how we work? And so when we bring that sort of decision-making closer to ourselves and eventually, hopefully, inside of ourselves, we become the prime mover. And that's not always entirely possible, of course. We have forces outside of ourselves acting on us. But what happens is when we bring that inside of ourselves, or closer to ourselves, then we start to get strategic. We start to actually design. So how does that show up in scheduling? Well, one of the things that I sometimes do with clients is, and with myself, is I make sure that, I'm on the 50-minute hour, for instance, with client calls. There's always a 10-minute buffer between calls. And that's so I can take care of myself, so I can stand up from my desk and go use the restroom or wash my face or just take a break. And I think that's really important to reset. And so that's one thing that I recommend is never go back to back. Always at least allow 1 minute, if not 5 or 10 minutes if you can. Again, that's not always possible when we're on other people's schedules at times. But the other thing I sometimes have clients do is I have clients, and again, I do this myself, is I build in blocks that have certain themes. So for instance, one block of 3 or 4 hours might be client calls. Another block of 3 or 4 hours might be dedicated sort of infrastructure and internal company development. And I sometimes do this with both professional things, but also with personal things like, oh, here's my self-care chunk, or here's the time I'm going to spend with my family. Again, just because we build out that structure doesn't mean we're going to get it. Of course, life is a mess at times, and we have to be flexible. But without sort of that scaffolding or that strategy or that initial design, we almost don't stand a chance. Life is just going to steamroll us with whatever it wants us to do. And so this becomes a real practice in mindfulness and mindful working in that, so for instance, I have a spreadsheet. And on that spreadsheet, I have my blocks. Again, it's a template. It never actually shows up exactly like the spreadsheet. That's just not reality. And yet, having the spreadsheet helps inform, oh, a new client approaches me. Oh, what do you have available? Well, I go to my spreadsheet. Where are my client blocks? Oh, I can offer them this, this, and this. There's no wondering about, just randomly, like, when am I available? No, I already have a decent sense of, oh, this is where this might fit in nicely. So that's just sort of the tip for the day is in scheduling, sort of have a template behind the scenes in which you design. And even if you work at a big company, yeah, certain meetings might be on Tuesday afternoons or Thursday mornings or Friday mornings or whenever sort of the general flow. And then of course there's surprise meetings and people want to talk sort of on the spot and things like this. But if you don't have sort of a scaffolding and a structure and sort of protect your time a little bit, just a tiny bit makes a huge difference, then none of it's your time. And ultimately, all of it is your time, even if you work for a big company. You've chosen to work for that big company. And because of that, you've chosen to use your time in that way. Again, we got to play by whatever rules and whatever sort of atmosphere and context we're in. But within that, there may be more leeway than you actually are taking advantage of and using to your benefit. So you can show up at those meetings that are scheduled on their time in a way that you're fully there because you've taken care of the rest of your time. Otherwise, that just feels like more filler and more distraction from your work. But if you haven't secured time to actually execute on the things that are talked about in those meetings, that's more your responsibility. And so how to sort of design proactively our time, how to build in gaps throughout the day so we get a little bit of breathing room. These are all super important things because otherwise weeks and years go by and we're like, oh, I wasn't reflective. I didn't strategize. I didn't really design it so it worked for me. Of course, it has to work for our employer, but it also has to work for us because otherwise it doesn't work. If it doesn't work for us, it doesn't work. It's not sustainable. And so time management, scheduling, all of these things are really important. Another practice that you might consider is if you can, don't schedule anything same day. Sort of make a practice of always, oh, somebody approaches you and wants to talk, schedule next day if it can be. Because otherwise your day is always getting destroyed by things that are showing up. And if you can push it back 24 hours, it makes a big difference because then you can wake up the next morning knowing that generally speaking, I have a sense of what my day is going to be. Yes, there'll be some surprises, but everything's not going to be a surprise. So those are just some general tips, hopefully to get folks sort of started on working mindfully around scheduling. Happy to talk more if anyone wants to reach out. Again, my name is Jonathan Reynolds here at Mindful Life, Mindful Work. Again, this is Thoughtful Work Thursdays. If you do any posting around this content on any social media platform, please use the hashtag MLMW Thoughtful Work. And hope to see you next Thursday. And happy scheduling. Take care.